Most people think they understand Japan. They picture Tokyo's neon streets, quiet temples, bullet trains, and perfectly organized cities. But there's another version of the country that feels harder to explain, even when you're standing inside it. Places where animals outnumber humans, villages that feel frozen in time, and cities that operate with a logic that feels slightly beyond normal expectation. Not fantasy, not fiction, just reality pushed to an extreme. These are 10 places in Japan that don't feel real. 1. Cat Island, Aoshima. In southern Japan, there's a small island that slowly transformed without most people noticing. Aoshima was once a quiet fishing village, dependent on a small human population that gradually declined over time. As people left, cats didn't just survive, they adapted and multiplied, eventually becoming the dominant presence on the island. Today, only a few elderly residents remain, living in near isolation alongside dozens of cats that roam freely through abandoned homes, empty roads, and silent docks. There are no strict boundaries anymore between human-built space and animal territory. Everything overlaps, naturally. What makes it feel unreal isn't just the population imbalance, it's how quickly the environment feels normal once you arrive, as if the island quietly rebalanced itself without needing explanation. 2. Fox Village. Deep in the mountains, the atmosphere changes completely. At Zhao Fox Village, foxes move freely across a large open environment that sits between sanctuary and wild habitat. There are fences in place, but the feeling is not confinement. It's coexistence within a shared space. Foxes walk slowly along paths, rest in clusters, or observe visitors from a distance, often deciding when and if interaction happens at all. Unlike traditional zoos, there's no constant sense of control or performance. Instead, the environment feels like it belongs primarily to the animals, with humans temporarily passing through it. That subtle shift, from observing wildlife to being inside their world, is what creates the feeling that something is slightly unreal. 3. Deer City Streets, Nara. In most cities, wildlife is something carefully separated from human life. But Nara never fully established that separation. Deer move through streets, parks, pedestrian crossings, and public squares as part of everyday movement. Over generations, they've adapted closely to human behavior, learning where food is given, how people respond, and even developing bowing behavior that mirrors interaction patterns. What makes it unusual isn't just their presence, it's how structured the coexistence feels. Traffic slows naturally for them. Tourists adjust walking paths without instruction. Public space operates as a shared system rather than divided zones. It doesn't feel like nature invading a city. It feels like both evolved together into a single, working environment. 4. Snow Village, Shirakawa-go. Some places feel unreal because they appear too precisely built for their environment. Shirakawa-go is one of those places. Its steep-roofed traditional houses were designed specifically to handle heavy snowfall, but in winter, the entire village becomes something almost cinematic. Snow builds up across rooftops in thick layers, smoke rises gently from wooden homes, and the entire landscape becomes visually silent. No clutter, no modern interference, just uniform stillness. There's a sense that the village isn't simply surviving winter, but that winter is part of its intended design. Everything feels balanced in a way that removes any sense of randomness. It doesn't feel like a place enduring harsh conditions. It feels like a place that was built for them. 5. Bamboo Forest. Then there's a place where perception itself starts to shift. In Arashiyama Bamboo Grove, bamboo grows so densely and vertically that it changes how space feels. The repetition of tall green stalks removes natural visual reference points, making distance and scale harder to judge the deeper you go. Sound also behaves differently. Wind moves through the bamboo in a controlled, almost rhythmic way, while footsteps feel softened and distant. The deeper you walk, the more the environment feels detached from normal spatial awareness, as if everything is slightly simplified into patterns rather than individual objects. It doesn't feel like a forest you explore. It feels like a structured environment you move through without fully orienting yourself. 6. Capsule hotels. Modern Japan creates its own version of spatial realism. Capsule hotels reduce living space down to its most efficient expression, a single enclosed sleeping unit designed purely for rest. Each capsule is uniform, stacked in tight, repeating rows that prioritize density over personal space. There is no excess design or unnecessary separation between units. Everything is structured for efficiency and volume. What makes it unusual isn't discomfort, but normalization. In cities like Tokyo, this system functions seamlessly as part of everyday life. It reflects a different philosophy of space, one where functionality matters more than expansion, and minimalism becomes infrastructure. It doesn't feel like a compromise. It feels like an entirely different definition of living space. 7. Vending machine network. In most countries, vending machines exist as occasional conveniences. In Japan, they feel integrated into the environment itself. They appear in dense cities, rural roads, quiet residential streets, and even isolated mountain areas far from traditional retail infrastructure. They provide drinks, meals, umbrellas, and location-specific items that adapt to local needs. What makes them feel unreal is not just variety, but reliability. The idea that access is always present, even in places that feel disconnected from normal systems. It creates a subtle sense that infrastructure extends further than expected, blurring the line between urban and rural space. 8. Themed and experience cafes. In certain areas of Japan, everyday activities are redesigned into structured experiences. Restaurants and themed cafes combine food, performance, and technology into environments that feel closer to staged production than traditional dining. Lighting, sound, costumes, and interaction are often synchronized, creating a controlled atmosphere rather than a casual one. Instead of just eating or drinking, visitors become part of an environment designed for immersion and entertainment. It creates a strange overlap between reality and performance, where normal actions are still happening, but within a highly stylized framework. It doesn't feel artificial. It feels intentionally designed. 9. Tokyo at night. Then there's Tokyo. At night, the city becomes layered in ways that are difficult to process at once. Bright neon signs reflect across crowded intersections, train stations operate with precision, and entertainment districts sit only minutes away from quiet residential zones. At first glance, it feels chaotic, overwhelming even, but the longer you observe it, the more structure becomes visible beneath the surface. Public transport runs with extreme consistency. Pedestrian flow remains organized even in dense areas. Systems operate independently, but in coordination. It is not disorder. It is controlled complexity at scale, where intensity and structure coexist in the same space. And that balance is what makes it feel slightly unreal. 10. Mount Fuji. After all of that movement, density, and activity, Japan eventually returns to silence. Mount Fuji rises above everything without interruption. No noise, no motion, no artificial enhancement. It stands as a single, constant shape in an environment that changes constantly around it. What makes it powerful is contrast rather than spectacle. After cities that feel engineered, environments that feel adaptive, and systems that feel hyper-efficient, this remains unchanged. Not distant from reality, just unaffected by the layers built around it. And that contrast is what makes it feel like a final reference point. Japan doesn't feel like one place. It feels like multiple systems of reality layered together, each functioning on its own logic, yet coexisting in the same world. And the more you explore it, the more difficult it becomes to define what normal actually means. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and allows us to keep creating content like this. We hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.